In this video, I will be demonstrating how to hand sew a laundry bag. You'll need 1 yard of cotton material, 1.5 yards of cording, scissors and pinking shears, a large safety pin, straight pins and a pin cushion, a marking pencil or tailor's chalk, a needle threader and thread, and a measuring tape. So for our first step, we're going to fold the fabric in half so that the right sides are together. These are my 2 right sides of the fabric. I want them touching each other. And I'm going to be careful to line up the selvage edge. And the selvage edge is the edge of the fabric that is created during the weaving process. And this edge is very good because it won't allow the fabric to unravel. Making sure that my edges are lined up along the side and along the bottom. Now, if your edges, like this bottom fold, does not have a selvage, it is best to cut your edge with pinking shears. The pinking shears have leaves the triangular marks when you cut along the cut edge. So I'm going to cut along the bottom edge of my laundry bag using the pinking shears. And this will make sure that my bottom edge does not fray or unravel. So I'm going to cut along the top edge of my laundry bag using the pinking shears so that I can make sure that the top edge of my fabric won't unravel. Our next step is to mark a 5/8 seam allowance onto our fabric. If you look closely at this measuring tape, you will see that the 1 inch mark is divided into 8 sections. To mark a 5/8 seam allowance, we're going to count each section that is 1/8 of an inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will be our 5/8 marking. This will be the first mark from the 1/2 inch mark, but some measuring tapes are divided into 16 sections. And if you have a measuring tape that's divided into 16 sections, it will be the second marking from the 1/2 inch mark. So, lining up our 5/8 seam allowance from the edge of our selvage, I'm going to mark my seam allowance all the way down the side. Now that I've marked the side of my laundry bag, I'm going to mark along the bottom of my laundry bag, and I'm going to line up my 5/8 marking on the cut line, and then I will mark the fabric, and I'll do that all the way to the end. This seam allowance will become my stitch line when it's time for me to sew my laundry bag. After marking our seam allowance, our next step is to pin our fabric together We're going to pin along the side and along the bottom. Using an anchor stitch, our next step is to sew our laundry bag along the sides using a back stitch. So we're going to begin with our anchor, and then we're going to sew our back stitch, and it's very important to remember that we're going to start from the top of our bag down to the bottom of our bag, working from right to left if you're right-handed, and working from left to right if you're left-handed. And I'll complete my back stitch all the way down until I reach the bottom. Now that I've finished stitching my back stitch along the side, I'm going to sew my back stitch along the bottom, working from the outside into the fold. So I'm going to work my back stitch, starting with my anchor, and then I'm going to move into my back stitch all the way to the fold, removing pins as I go. Our next step is to mark a 1/2 inch marking from the cut line along the edge of our opening. This will be the top opening of our laundry bag. So we're going to mark all the way down, and once we finish, we're going to flip it over and mark the other side. Next, after we've marked our 1/2 inch, we're going to measure 2.5 inches from our cut line and make another marking. We're going to do this along the top of our laundry bag, and I'm going to flip it over and do the same to the other side. Now that I've finished my markings, I'm going to fold my cut edge up to the very first marking and finger press. This is going to create a 1/4 of an inch fold. When I have it down, I'll go ahead and come in with the iron and press it. I'll continue on until I've pressed down the first fold along the top edge of the laundry bag. Now that my first fold is pressed down, my next step is going to be to fold it over again, this time to the second marking, and that will create a fold that is about 1 inch. I'll press that down with my fingers, and then I'll go over it with the iron. And I'll do this all the way around the bag, the top of the laundry bag. My next step will be to pin down the edge of the fold And I'm going to pin this down along where I pressed all the way around the top of the laundry bag. Starting with an anchor stitch, our next step is to sew an even running stitch along the edge of our fold. This is going to be about 1/8 of an inch from the fold that we're going to complete a nice even running stitch. But we're going to start by making 3 back stitches to form our anchor. Once that is done, then I'll begin my running stitch. And I will make this running stitch all the way around, leaving a small opening for our cord to come in. So a nice even running stitch all the way around, removing pins as we go. So I have sewn my running stitch and I left a small opening for the drawstring. To insert my drawstring, I'm going to put a pin at the end of the drawstring and insert it through the hole that I left. And now I'm just going to guide the safety pin all the way around the top of my laundry bag until it comes out of the other side. So I'm keep working this around. And I'll keep working it all the way almost there. Okay, so now I've reached my opening and I'm going to pull the safety pin out. And now I have my drawstring. At this point, I will remove my safety pin. And I could tie a knot at the end and be finished. Or I could add one last finishing touch. I have a cord lock here, and I'll insert I can insert the cord lock. Just as a final finishing touch, and then tie my knot. All that's left is to turn my bag right side out. And I've completed my hand sewn laundry bag.